All right, welcome to episode 4 of What If, a Denver Gazette video series. We look back at the biggest what ifs in Colorado sports history. Today, I'm joined by Danielle Allentuck to talk a little Rockies. Danielle, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. This topic, I think, is one of my favorite moments in Colorado sports. I think a lot of Colorado sports fans feel that way. So I'm excited to get your take on it. Let me do a little background on the 2007 Colorado Rockies. So this is a team managed by Clint Hurdle. They're mediocre most of the year. At one point, they're 9 games under 500. Just kind of middle of the pack, nothing exciting. This team has Troy Tulowitzki, Matt Holliday, Todd Helton, Garrett Atkins, pitchers like Jeff Francis, Aaron Cook, a very young Ubaldo Jimenez. Josh Fogg was a veteran pickup they had that pitched a lot. Also had Brian Fuentes and Manny Corpus at the back end of the bullpen. So there was talent, but they were just kind of always right around 500. So on September 16th of that year, the Rockies beat the Marlins at Coors Field 13-0 to move to 77 and 72. That began a win streak where the Rockies won 13 out of the next 14 games to tie the Padres for the wild card spot. A funny thing to hear for Rockies fans to hear now, the Rockies beat the Dodgers 7 times during that winning streak. So they're not used to hearing that. So they play the Padres in game 163 this is when there was only one wild card spot. So they play game 163. It is a thrilling 9-8 extra inning win for the Rockies. We can debate another day if Matt Holliday touched home plate. But the Rockies going on the playoffs for the first time since 1995. So they play the Phillies in the first round. They sweep them. They play the Diamondbacks in the NLCS, sweep them as well. So they have won 21 games out of 22 before the World Series starts, but they have an 8-day break while the ALCS is finishing up between Boston and Cleveland. Kind of lose all momentum. Don't play a game for that whole stretch, just kind of having practice and BP and all that. They get swept by the Red Sox. They get beat 13-1 in the first game. The games aren't very close at all. Kind of just ends the season on a sour note. So a little after that season, 2008, I think they win 77 games. 2009, they trade Matt Holliday for Carlos Gonzalez and Houston Street, go to the playoffs, and then lose to the Phillies in the NLDS. And then they do not make the playoffs again until 2017 and 18 with Bud Black as the manager. So Danielle, I'll ask you, what if there's not an 8-day break and the Colorado Rockies play the Boston Red Sox on regular rest?
I mean, realistically, I don't think anything would have changed. I don't think anything would have changed in that series. And I don't think anything would have changed with the trajectory of the team. In that series, I mean, for a pitcher, rest is the best thing you can ask for. And Jeff Francis had 8 days off. I think he had more than that. I think he had 12. He just ran out there and bombed. I mean, the team chemistry doesn't just go away like that. I kind of think that it would have been the same outcome.
So yeah, Jeff Francis pitched game 1 against the Diamondbacks and pitched great. So it would have been, yeah. So what do you think if they would have played Cleveland instead of Boston? Cleveland was still pretty good that year, but people kind of favored them against Cleveland. What do you think?
I mean, just to be a realist, this team has never been able to play well on the road, even in that playoff series in during October. I think it may have been closer, but Boston was a much better team. So, I mean, it may have been better, but I don't know. They're still the Rockies.
They're still the Rockies. So, you weren't covering the team. I don't know what you were doing in 2007, but you probably hear from Rockies fans about this moment. How do you feel about this moment, and what have you heard from fans about this moment? This whole Rocktober in general. Sorry.
I mean, for a lot of fans, I talked to a lot of fans who are in a similar generation as me, and they kind of see this as the moment that they fell in love with baseball and fell in love with the Rockies. They kind of see it as their tipping point. I mean, they remember watching October, the day games during classes. They remember, staying up late to watch the playoff games. I mean, I think it brought in a whole generation of, for the first time, homegrown baseball fans in Colorado. And a lot of them kind of are okay, kind of all went downhill from there for them.
Yeah, it's probably one of the flukiest things in sports that's ever happened. I mean, winning 21 out of 22 baseball games seems pretty surreal now.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen very few things happen since then. You can't take that away from them. They earned their spot there. That was one of the most incredible runs we've seen in baseball, but it doesn't really matter if you can't win it when it comes time to. I mean, like you said, they were not even close. They held only one lead in that whole series.
Yeah, Boston was definitely the better team. And it was kind of sad because I think that it really, our boss, Paul Klee, says that it's the most important moment in sports history. I don't know if I agree with him on that, but I think it's pretty high up there as something that no matter, even if you weren't a baseball fan, people were interested in it.
Exactly. And I mean, I think the thing that I keep coming back to in my mind too is that you have to take the Red Sox point of view in that they didn't get any time off. It was very different for them. You could use the argument that weren't they too beat up? Weren't they, so tired from their previous series going 7 games? I mean, there were two polar opposites going against each other there.
Yeah, and I think the answer to this question is, I kind of agree with you. I've always thought like, oh, if they had the rest, they would have won. And but like you make a good point that Francis had all those days off, and it was probably the best because he was throwing 7 innings all the time. He was huge for them down the stretch. He lost that one game they lost was to the Diamondbacks at Coors Field on a Friday night. I still remember, to go back to my past, I was working at the Rocky Mountain News then answering phones, and how many calls I got asking what channel the Rockies were on, because people didn't know what channel the Rockies were on because they just didn't matter until that September run. And, they've mattered during Bud Black's tenure in 17 and 18, but now you look at it as it's just, they're 4th on the pro sports totem pole. And at this point, they were 1st in 07.
They are in terms of success. I would actually say that they're 3rd. If you look at them compared to the Broncos, their record's actually much better over the past 5 years. And they've been to the playoffs twice. But
that is true. I guess they have been to the playoffs twice since the Broncos won the Super Bowl. But I think I was saying more on like maybe interest level now.
I actually think like I know attendance is one thing and everybody can say, fans go to Rockies games for the other team, but I think that they have the 2nd biggest fan base in Colorado.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you could be right because people love Coors Field. And baseball is still fun.
And say what you will about people going for the other team, they're still going to games.
They are. There's still 30,000 people at that stadium. You see that 81 times a year when you're over there. So all right. So I think the answer to our question is not much would have changed. The Rockies would still be on the same path they would be. They probably wouldn't have won that World Series. And I'm trying to think back to that Red Sox team. So that's like Josh Beckett, Pedroia, those guys, right? Ortiz is still on that team.
And Daniel Bard, who's now
Daniel Bard was on that team. Oh my goodness. All right.
He wasn't on it for the whole playoffs, but he did get a ring.
Wow. So there you go. All right. So the answer is definitely that not much would have changed with the Rockies. It was a great run to witness, and I think Colorado sports fans will never forget it. It just didn't end with a title. It reminds me a little bit of the Nuggets bubble run in 2020 where they lost in the West. It was really awesome for 6 weeks, but it didn't end. It didn't end with a title. So, all right, Danielle, thanks for doing this. It's always fun to talk about Rocktober, and we will talk to you again soon.
Yes, and small question, Daniel Bard was not on that team. Wrong year. Apologize.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe the next year.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye.